The Blast from Our Past Network.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom, and enjoy this bonus episode of Podcasting After Dark.
Hey everybody, co-host Corey here with a bonus mini video game review. I haven't done one of these in a while. Right now I am playing a game called Terminator 2D No Fate. It came out last December in 2025. It's made by the people over at Bitmap Bureau. And you can find it on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, Switch, pretty much everything. And what it is an old school 2D side-scroller like you'd find back in the day on the Genesis or Super Nintendo, 16-bit or whatever. But you're playing through the story of Terminator 2. Now, of course, you're mostly playing through the action parts of the story, but the game does recreate the whole film in story mode. Graphics are great. It's, like I said, it's this 16-bit throwback style. But I mean, they're gorgeous, they're HD, they're modern, it's kind of like when you think about the games you played on the Super Nintendo and Genesis, you go back and play them now, you're like, oh, they don't look quite as good as you sort of remember. This looks as good as you think you remember those to be. So you can play through the game story mode wise. You play through it as either Sarah Connor, John Connor young, John Connor older, and you play as the T-800 a few times as well. But you'll play different segments of the story. So you'll play John Connor young when he's being chased by the T-1000 on the, in the truck through the aqueducts and everything in the valley. And basically it becomes sort of a racing game at that point, like a side-scrolling racing game and everything. You will play as Sarah Connor sneaking out of the mental institution, and it'll become more of a stealth-driven game for those segments, always retaining like this side-scroller 2D, aspect ratio. But the play mechanics vary and everything during each segment. So, for example, sometimes when you're playing Sarah Connor and you're trying to be stealthy, you can hide inside of doorways and stuff, very reminiscent of Rolling Thunder, if you played that back in the day, and a little bit of, I think, elevator action and everything. When you're as John Connor racing on his dirt bike, you have to hit speed power-ups and then also dodge incoming obstacles and everything. When you're the Terminator, you just shoot the shit out of everybody, but of course you still have like a health meter and everything. One of the cool aspects is you play as John Connor in the future, and you get access to pipe bombs, and you're basically fighting all various aspects of Terminators and hunter killers like the tanks and the flying ones and everything. And there's cutscenes and in between the action, kind of giving you an abbreviated version of the story. Which is really cool. And then at the end, when you're playing against the T-1000, you're Sarah Connor, you have to run with young John Connor. Every time the T-1000 pops up, you have to shoot him with your shotgun. So they really do keep the gameplay varied between levels, But here's what the really cool thing is about the game. You just heard me talk about playing as future John Connor and everything. So the game, to sort of flesh things out, you also play aspects of the movie that you don't see. So, for example, you start out playing as Sarah Connor, breaking into Cyberdyne Systems, the factory and whatnot, trying to destroy them. And this, of course, is what leads her to get captured and put in a mental institution that you see in the movie. But now you're actually playing the beginning of that. You also play as older John Connor in the future, having to get to, Skynet in order to send back Kyle Reese for Terminator 1, and then, send a Terminator back for Terminator 2. So you're actually playing that aspect as well. So it's almost like this cool, it almost plays out like a movie novelization, because a lot of times in the novelization you get a little bit more than what you see in the movie. It kind of plays out like that, which is a lot of fun. But wait, it gets better. So you play through the story mode at least once, and you can see that there will be options available to you to choose different paths. And you play the story mode the first time, and it's pretty much just a recreation of the movie, with Sarah Connor not killing Miles Dyson in his home, everything like that. But once you beat it the first time, you can actually start making changes. First change you can make is deciding whether or not to switch the T-800's chip, his microprocessing chip, his brain essentially, to either, how it is in the movie where he can write, it can read, write, type of thing, where it's set to read only. Basically, he can only follow the commands, but he can start learning. You can set it to that, and that's how you actually play it during the game. The first time you set the command to learn, to become a learning computer. But you can also now select a path where you order the T-800 to murder Miles Dyson. And what happens is you play the stages after that a little bit differently. And things kind of play out a little bit differently. And, I don't want to give too much away because there's some interesting stuff there. And then the third path you can play, you can be Sarah Connor deciding to kill Miles Dyson in his home. And again, it plays out differently. You actually get some different stages, and Sarah Connor has to break out of a police station, and she basically becomes the Terminator in Terminator 1, killing all the police officers. So you get these cool little what-if scenarios to help flesh out the runtime of the game, because a playthrough of the main story is probably going to be about maybe 2.5 hours-ish, somewhere around there, depending on how fast you do it. Also, depending on if you just skip through the cutscenes or not, it'll be a much quicker, playtime at that point. But, to kind of pad things out, they have you go back and replay levels. You can't select levels to play, so if you want to replay a level, or if you're trying to trophy hunt for a specific level, you have to start at the beginning of the game. But the game, the levels are pretty quick, and you can kind of breeze through them pretty fast once you figured out, where the enemies come from and everything. And of course, there's difficulties, higher difficulties, lower difficulties, so you can if you want to just play the story, you can play it on super easy and just kind of burn through it and get the story. If you want more of a challenge, there's multiple levels of difficulty, which throw more enemies at you. The bullets come at you faster and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time kind of trophy hunting on it. I've beaten the game once on easy, and now I think I've beaten it twice on medium, normal. Now I'm playing it on hard, and then once I beat it on hard, there'll be a harder level to unlock. And you also the difficulty will allow you to have how many continues you're allowed to have. And there's hidden stuff to find in each level. You can have weapon upgrades and stuff like that. One of the cool things, another gameplay mechanic that's fun, especially for John Connor, the adult John Connor stages, is he gets weapon upgrades kind of like Contra. Remember that old NES game Contra, where, homing shots, spread lasers and stuff like that. And, and also the pipe bombs, like I mentioned, and you can hide for cover and all this kind of stuff. So, if you grew up playing video games your whole life, like I have, I started at the Atari 2600, went to the NES, went to Genesis, Super Nintendo, then to PlayStation 1. And then I've been a Sony guy ever since. I've been a PlayStation kid ever since. All of this stuff will be very, very familiar to you, but the animation is so smooth, so wonderful, so many little details in this 16-bit representations. There's so much life to it and everything, so much personality. It's really cool. The stages are great, the graphics are great. The game also has a bunch of different modes and everything you can play through. So you have, obviously, like I said, the story mode. Then you have an arcade mode, which is basically you just play through the story without any kind of continues or anything like that. You have to play it in one go, almost like those old school NES games. You get a boss rush mode where you're just fighting bosses, see how far you can get, if you can get to the end of it and everything. Because, you have one life bar, but every boss you beat, it'll give you a little chip back on your life. So, there's a challenge there, obviously multiple difficulties. There's an infinite mode that I just unlocked, and basically you just see how many enemies you can kill before you get killed, and then it's all about high scores and everything. There's a mode called Mother of the Future where you basically just play through the Sarah Connor stages, and you without the rest of the story, you just play through that. Again, with the multiple branching story stuff, you see some cool things. You see some cool what-if scenarios that actually one of them kind of puts Sarah Connor in the future. And she has white hair and everything, kind of reminiscent of that last Terminator film, which I rather enjoyed. Out of all the, Terminator sequels that came out post Terminator 2, I actually really enjoyed that one. I actually really enjoyed Part 3 as well. I love the Terminator universe, guys and gals. I've been reading Terminator comics too since I was a kid. I used to read the Now Terminator comics. I used to read the Dark Horse Terminator comics. I highly recommend if you can find it. I think it's on Comixology, but Alex Ross made for Now Comics called Terminator: The Burning Earth. And it's a John Connor future story, future war story told before Terminator 2 came out. So he doesn't really look like that in Terminator 2. But it's all done in the Alex Ross painted, style. It's unfucking believable. Terminator: The Burning Earth by Alex Ross for Now Comics. Could be under the Dark Horse label. I'm not sure, but you can find it on Comixology. But yeah, I used to read all that stuff. Like the Terminator universe for me, it's like the Alien universe. It's like the Predator universe, Star Wars universe, Dune universe. It's like one of these like cinematic universes that I just always love. I'm sorry, but Genesis was fucking atrocious. I couldn't even get on board with Genesis. But for the most part, every Terminator movie, I find something to enjoy about them because I just love the fucking Terminator universe. I played all the games back in the day, the shooter one in the arcade. I remember when it came out for consoles, I fucking loved it, and everything. So this really scratched an itch for me, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you, it made me feel like when I'm playing it, it makes me feel like I'm a kid again playing my Super Nintendo and back when the world wasn't a fucking nightmare. So, yeah, if you want to feel like a kid again, check out Terminator 2D No Fate. It's pretty much available anywhere. I think a physical copy might be like $50, but digitally it's like 30, which I think that's how it always should be. If you're going to buy a digital copy, it should be cheaper. Depending on how much value you get out of it, like I said, the story mode is kind of short. Maybe wait for a $20 sale, maybe wait for it to be, $10 later in the year or something like that. I don't regret spending $30 on it. Truly, I don't. But at the same time, the story being as short as it is and how fast you can sort of get through it. And if you're not the type of person that's going to trophy hunt or achievement hunt on the Xbox, trying to beat everything and do all these different little trophies, for example, there's a trophy or an achievement where you don't kill any of the dog creatures, characters in the game because you fight dog Terminators. So if you don't kill any of the human or not human, natural dogs versus robotic dogs, throughout the course of the game, you get a trophy. Stuff like that when I mean trophy hunt. If you're not going to go back and try to do all that and play the extra modes and you just kind of want to play it for the story, then yeah, maybe $20. Maybe I'd wait for it to be like $20 because it is cool. The branching story stuff is cool. You are forced to play it multiple times, but I think the payoff is worth it. I really do. And, it's a really cool what if scenario and everything. And I do like the future stuff. I think that stuff's pretty cool. That's always been my favorite stuff. It's kind of why I always like Terminator 1 more than Terminator 2. I will never talk bad about Terminator 2, but only having one future scene in Terminator 2 is kind of like a bummer to me. I love how many times we go back to the future in Terminator 1. And of course, that sex scene is such a part of my childhood. But anyways, guys and gals, go check out this game if you're a Terminator fan, And everything I just said, I think it's a fun game. Graphics are great. I'm having a blast with it. There's a couple hard trophies, so I don't know if I'll platinum it, but I'll certainly try. Leave a comment on Spotify or Instagram or Patreon, wherever you can. Let me know what you think of this mini review. Let me know if you're playing the game. Let me know if this, helped you decide whether or not you want to pick up the game. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple or wherever. Those always help. And thank you all who have left us 5-star reviews. You guys freaking rock. And thank you to all of our Patreon members. You guys rock the hardest. So, as always, dun 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 dun. We'll catch you on the dark side. Wait, hold on. Can I do an Arnold? Give me your shoes. Okay. We'll catch you on the dark side.
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can support the show by joining our Patreon page, picking up a t-shirt from our merch store, or leaving us a 5-star review. Follow us on Instagram at Podcasting After Dark. All links can be found on our website at www.podcastingafterdark.com. And join us next time for another cult movie or TV show review with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.